If you're someone who loves music or movies or a combination of both, I think you will really enjoy this documentary. I'm referring, of course, to the upcoming Disney Plus documentary, Music by John Williams. The documentary is basically, it is what it is. There's nothing super different about it. It basically talks about John Williams' career, his biography, his childhood leading up to how he got into music, and his first marriage and what happened to his first wife, which I had no idea about that because I don't know much about John Williams. I recognize the name, like I think many of us do. And a lot of us knew his music before we even knew his music. Like there were different tunes that it showed that he worked on for different shows and things like that I had heard and was quite familiar with before I even knew the name John Williams. I mean, his stuff has cemented itself in the minds of many people throughout the world. I mean, that's how broad of a reach he has. It's quite an interesting documentary. I'm not super into music, not hugely, but as you know, I love movies, and music adds so much to storytelling. So I was automatically interested in this, especially because I generally do like the scores of his that I know of. So it was really interesting to hear the different people's perspectives on his work. And of course, they had him being interviewed as well. It really almost feels like, as someone in here mentioned it, and I don't remember who said it, that it was like John Williams has this magical ability. You hear his music for the first time and you don't forget it. I mean, how many theme songs that we know of are just seared into our brain? It's not something that you can easily forget, and it's something that is permanently attached to whatever it is it's for, like the E.T. theme, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Star Wars, things like that. So many other things, you guys. And also his music feels so appropriate for the scene or the story or the movie that he's writing it for. It's just his talent is fascinating. And like I said, you don't even have to be a huge music lover to appreciate this film. In addition to Steven Spielberg being interviewed, Chris Martin was also on here, which was interesting to see. Martin said that when Spielberg and Williams are together, they're a band, which I thought was kind of an appropriate comment to make. I mean, they met when Spielberg was quite young, early on in his film directing career, and John Williams was already 40. That's interesting. I did not know that he was already in his 40s in the 70s when he met Spielberg and also George Lucas. It's interesting also to find out that he's actually not really huge into movies. He's not a movie buff. He's not a big movie fan, which I was like, wait, what? What? But I don't know, just to me that kind of stood out. There were some other notes I took. Oh yeah, I didn't know that he'd done the score or worked on the score for To Kill a Mockingbird and also the Frank Langella Dracula movie. So many other, like so many things, you guys. I am just pretty positive that when you sit down and watch this, you're going to see stuff that it shows he worked on that you will be surprised as heck to find out that he was the one behind it. Now, if you have a really good ear and you can, and some people, they can just hear someone's music and they know instinctively who it came from, because I guess there's a certain style that comes with me. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. Some are more easy to pick out, I feel like, than others, but maybe you will already have known that some of the stuff that you are familiar with it came from John Williams, but it was news to me, some of these things. They had interviews with members of his family, well, namely his daughter, which at first I thought that was his wife, and then I was totally mistaken because I guess I didn't pick up on the language quickly enough when I was listening to it. But then eventually it became clear that it was his daughter, and his first wife apparently was an actress. She had a tragically short life. That was pretty sad to hear about and how it affected him as well. He talked about his style of composing music, and he mentioned that he does not do it electronically. He does it all by hand. He writes it all down. And he fully recognizes that it takes him longer than most modern or younger composers can do it, because that's not his thing. And that was interesting. Feels like a dying art, writing out music like that by hand, because most people do take advantage of the electronic equipment and tools or software available to you to make that process easier. But for him, it works to do it the old-fashioned way. He also talked about the hardest thing that he had to write, or the most complicated or difficult or whatever. I won't tell you what that was, just so you can watch that for yourself. And when it shows the clip of what he's talking about, and I have seen this film before, but when it shows the clip of what he's talking about, I was thinking, okay, yeah, I could see how that would be challenging. And I'm not a musician. I mean, I played piano for a few years, but that's about the extent of my music knowledge when it comes to stuff like that, or being able to read music or understanding how it's composed. I have a very superficial knowledge of that, but even I can understand how complicated that particular moment probably was for him. He also talked about his work on Schindler's List, which was a very moving and interesting part of the documentary. It doesn't take up a ton of time, but it's a pretty impactful segment of the film. Getting back to Spielberg, he said how that after he had John Williams work on Sugarland Express, which was the first movie they worked on together, that Spielberg had decided John Williams was going to be the guy that he used forever on his movies. And I'm pretty sure that's the case. It seems like he did work on literally every Spielberg movie from Sugarland Express and onward. Chris Martin, at one point in the closing segment of the film, said that he felt it was important to be thankful, or to express thanks for that amount of joy that John Williams' music has brought us, that nobody has a worse day for hearing his music. And that's appropriate. I think that was a pretty good observation to make. He does have music that touches on all these different emotional chords and generates these feelings in you that it's kind of hard to put into words, but the music captures it perfectly, if that makes any sense at all. He also made a comment that I felt was pretty interesting. He said that music for a musician, it's like breathing. He said it supports us, it sustains us, it gives us energy. And he also said that music is enough for a lifetime, but a lifetime is not enough for music. And I thought that was an interesting comment to make. Steven Spielberg, getting back to him again, because he does play a pretty big role in this documentary, he said that whenever he's working on a movie, the one thing he looks forward to is getting to the end of that so that he can sit down and listen to new music by John Williams for every movie, because he makes the movie, of course, then he goes over it with John Williams, and then he sits there. And I also showed Tom Hanks when the music for Saving Private Ryan was being worked on. Tom Hanks right there sitting in the balcony chairs watching the orchestra work on the music for Saving Private Ryan. And Steven Spielberg, pretty much the same thing. He just sits there. He said it takes about 6 to 7 or 8 days or so for the music to be worked on, and how that is something he looks forward to the most. And I can see why, because this man, his talent is fascinating. I mean, just like the ability that he has to watch a scene and be able to encapsulate all of the emotions of that scene and put it to music in such a way that engages us so completely as the audience. I have nothing but awe when I think about the talent that this man has. I mean, I have appreciation for anyone who knows how to compose music, to put together a string of sounds that can give you this full story. I mean, it's kind of what music is like. It's like a story in its own. It's like storytelling, just a different form of it. And I appreciated the heck out of this documentary. I highly recommend that if you like documentaries, if you like music, movies, like I said at the very beginning, even if you're not huge into it, I still feel like there's something to appreciate in watching this documentary. I believe it comes out on the 1st. So as of the recording of this tomorrow, I'm recording this on October 31st. Hold on a minute, Chibi. My dog. She had to get out of my lap when I first started filming this. Now she just has to get back up. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I think it comes out on the 1st. If I'm incorrect, I will clarify that in a text in the video. But that's about all I have to say right now for music by John Williams. If you get a chance to check it out, let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video. Adios.